That's good enough. Well, I tried putting up a preview for this fucking shit, and for whatever reason, it didn't work. Now, what y'all going to be watching here, you know, when people actually show up, is me getting ready for this shit. For whatever reason, YouTube, in all its infinite wisdom, doesn't allow me to see a preview of my camera, except for a quick thumbnail screenshot kind of thing before I go live. So I get to try and position this camera for like 10 minutes before it even goes up, which is super cool. I enjoy looking like an idiot on camera. I'm also incredibly ill prepared, and I need to de-sleeve the deck because apparently I sleeved all of them. I played this here Kezilek, the Great Distortion deck over the weekend, and I played this a couple of weeks ago or something. And these are supposed to be the sleeves that I'm going to start using for this show, but I forgot to de-sleeve it. I got no viewers yet, so whatever. It'll be a couple minutes of dead air. That's fine. Let's pop out chat. Move this over here. Okay, still no one watching. I wonder if anybody saw my little preview I tried putting up, which should be, oh, fuck, I closed it. I wonder if I'm even live. I wonder if it's even showing on YouTube. I've been having such a problem with this fucking website. Everything that like everyone else can do, I can't seem to figure out. Like I tried making a post and that wasn't working. Okay, so I am live. It does say I'm live, so people will show up as they come. Let's open up this here chat. These dragon shields, these new ones I got, smell straight up like fucking plastic. It's real bad. Oh God, is that viewable? No, it's not. Wonder if anyone's gonna even want to watch on a fucking Sunday at 11. Either way, I'm gonna do another one before. I got an overnight tonight, and then tomorrow I've got off on Memorial Day, so I'll probably cram one out late afternoon. Because it seems like 11 might be too early. I don't know what y'all do on Sundays, but apparently it's not this. What is it? Oh, it's probably super early in the morning everywhere else but in New England. Maybe this isn't a good time for this. Shit. Kind of want to talk to the Void on this one. You know, some people were actually excited to see Queen Marchesa. Do I wait till later or do I go now? I think I go now. Whatever. I have no idea how. I think you just do what you do and you let people watch if they watch. So what I've got here is Queen Marchesa. This isn't the version I used. The version I used on the show had, so what I've got here is I've got a couple of utility lands that I use. And then the rest of this, I'll go through lands first, is a very, very basic budget level land base. So The version I used on the show was my buddy Kyle has a perfect Mardu mana base that like we managed to put together over a couple of years. And when I was building this deck, I didn't really bother going to pick up a couple of the extra cards. I don't really play black-white, and at the time I didn't really play Boros either. So I didn't even really bother going to collect the cards and pick up my own copies. For the show, I just kind of used his mana base. But if I wanted to keep playing the deck after that, obviously he's going to need it back. So I went out and just put together like the cheapest, smallest budget mana base, because the way this deck works is incredibly slow, even for EDH standards. So I've got the bare minimum here on a budget mana base, and it works. Like, believe me, you don't need anything more expensive than like $3 lands tops. I don't even think I have rare lands in here. It's like all basics and like tap lands. You really don't fucking need them for this style deck that I built. Spending all your money on fetches and dual lands and shit for this deck is only something you do as a labor of love, not necessarily as a competitive need, because oh boy, does it not need it. So the way I've got this set up is it is in order of converted mana cost, which I probably should have set it up in terms of like what they do, but I think this will be fine. So the general theme of this deck, right? I've got Queen Marchesa is a 4-drop 3/3 Death Touch haste. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. And at the beginning of your upkeep, and if opponent is the Monarch, you put an assassin creature token on the battlefield with death touch, and haste. So, and it's a 1/1. So a lot of people I've seen build around the fact that I've seen a lot of people play like the really just basically use her as a Rattlesnake and a personal Howling Mine, that you just draw a card every turn, you become the Monarch, and then you make sure you're never hit again. And while I think that's solid, I think what's way more important and what was more building around when I saw it was getting the black assassin creature tokens for other people being the Monarch. And I saw a very clear and real deck opportunity in that. Basically the point of this deck, summed up in one line, is you play Queen Marchesa turn 4, turn 3, or turn 4, and you immediately let yourself get hit. Like, without hesitation, you let that Monarch fly away from you, you let someone else take it, and you move on with your life, and you just play was essentially a Rattlesnake / Snake in the Grass-esque build that punishes your opponents for doing things that a lot of these decks want to do in this format. A lot of the more explosive things that do happen, you're here to punish those things and wait for the right opportunity. While hiding behind a wall of, you really don't want to attack me, and why would you anyways? I'm not even the Monarch, someone else is. So you kind of let the chaos ensue. It's a tad bit like a chaos deck. I built another deck that's similar to it in a Naya take on that kind of thing, where like just everyone's attacking each other and you just kind of come out on top at the end. And but this is a much less subtle version, or this is a much more subtle, but more like generally you'll win by casting like 3 spells. And the rest of what you're doing is playing pure politics and pure like just putting a dagger in your opponent's backs at the last second. So it's an awesome deck. It's very on flavor. Not that I generally care about that kind of stuff, but if you wanted to be a human assassin, Queen Marchesa, this is the deck to do it. So, I got somebody watching now. Thank God, because I was talking through the void there for a second. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be sleeving up just the card portion. For you new viewer, I've already gone over the mana base. It's pretty basic. I'm not going to lie. For the most part, I play a couple things like Mystifying Maze, Rogue's Passage, a couple of real cheap land destruction cards, like just like, you know, the strip mine variants and a couple things like that, because you really don't need much. I've got a Temple of the God here, Temple of the False God here, and then the rest of this is all just a real basic, cheap budget mana base. Because as I was saying, you're not really playing very proactively. It's just control or aggro, very much control. What I was saying before is it's a little bit like it's very much a, what's that word? There's a word for it, but it's essentially just a snake in the grass kind slash rattlesnake deck, where you're really sitting behind the fact that other people are the monarch and making sure that you're the least fun target to attack. And you just let everyone else kind of beat the shit out of each other. And then you have those Punisher cards that really, or these cards that really punish people for using the more explosive effects in EDH. Things like having a boatload of cards in hand, or making 1 million tokens, or making one huge dude and trying to kill everybody. And you kind of just come out on top by putting that last knife in your last opponent's back after he's killed everyone else. Generally, you'll get saved for last. Now, obviously, I don't think this works in things like, you know, the hyper competitive builds. This certainly isn't. I think this plays well in like the 75% power kind of deck range, where, you know, your opponents are doing fun things, but for the most part are still trying to win, and will do like some of the insane shit. Like living deathing a 1 million creatures back is still something you could easily beat. But as I was explaining before, you're really not here to be the monarch. You want to play her as soon as possible. In fact, she should probably be your first spell in this build. And you immediately just let somebody hit you. Like, you don't even block. You leave up a, oh my God. You leave up the 3/3 Death Touch haste, and you just let them hit you. You let the first dude with like a flying pinger hit you, and then you just never think about it again. You know, they're going to draw cards. They're going to fight over it. It's going to be a great time. And you're not going to be the biggest target. That's essentially what you're looking to not be. So I have these, like I was explaining before, I have these in no particular order. But the deck list is pretty cheap for the most part. Like, it's absurdly cheap. I really don't think there's anything particularly worth a lot of money here. It's really not much. What it really comes down to is how much do you want to spend on No Mercy? And then the deck is basically built for like $50. And I win with it a lot, because it really is just the biggest surprise. Even if you've won last game, you play like that again, and people are still going to be pulled. The cards you're using are still going to pull them towards attacking other people and not you. And so it's not even like a one-trick pony. Obviously, some people are going to get it eventually, but the way I built it with cards like Pithis and stuff like that, even if they wanted to, even if they got what your deck was doing and knew it to a T, they still have to do the things that you're punishing to win. You know, Pithis is destroy target creature, its controller loses life equal to its power plus its toughness. Now, if anyone's got like a 20/20 or something like that, they're dead. They're just dead on impact. And if they've lost any life that game, you can go even lower. You know, your basic 10/10 is well within killing range. And a big part of that, this also has suspend, but you never want to do that. You never want to show your hand on what you're trying to do here before it's like, before they know it's there. Suspending this sounds like the worst possible thing, because then the dude with the biggest creature is just going to swing at you over and over and over. But, my idea is that, like, you would be trying to play this deck, and even if they knew exactly how you were trying to win, it still doesn't matter, because the only way they're winning is making said giant creature or 1 billion tokens or drawing 100 cards, stuff like that. So they kind of don't really get an option. So you can still probably play and or tweak this game, maybe if your dedicated group figures it out. But this is my favorite deck to play with randos. Easily one of my favorites, because there's just really no seeing it coming, especially with the way EDH is nowadays, where everyone's just trying to do more and more broken shit. You're just here to take that win right from under their nose. Next I got here is Dread, just a No Mercy that doesn't cost like $15-20. Plus, it has fear. I mean, being able to hit somebody for 6, you know, in the late game is pretty awesome. It's one of the few creatures in here, but it works. I've got Merciless Eviction here. This is one of the few wraths you're going to be running. I think it's pretty much the only wrath worth running in this build or in this style deck, because you really don't want everyone's shit gone. You want to be there to punish it when they get out of control. But just being able to kind of hit what you need, especially Planeswalkers. Planeswalkers aren't particularly useful for the way we want to kill people. So being able to exile all of them is something this deck seriously needs. Here's another version of like what we're talking about. We've got Axis of Morality. Beginning of your upkeep, you may have 2 target players exchange life totals. That's exactly the kind of thing we're looking for. People are going to be hitting each other, and as you start swapping life totals around, either positively by giving somebody a bigger life total, or negatively by giving him less of one, you're playing just such a huge part in the politics. And if you've made yourself a bad target, they just simply can't come at you with the same, you know, vigor they want to as your opponents. Next, we've got Deadly Tempest. This is exactly the kind of thing I was talking about, punishing tokens. Even if you don't, like I said before, maybe you don't want to run a Wrath, but I almost consider this more of a, you're hitting your opponent for playing like 5 billion tokens. Like this, you're kind of playing this last second against one dude to win, not necessarily just early game to stop what's going on. And, you know, there are people who will make infinite tokens or manage to, like, you know, the Edgar Markov decks that just have 4 billion vampires out. And you're just like, okay, you're at like 15, die. Stuff like that, you can really tear somebody down a lot in life total, which really puts you in a good spot here, especially when other people are already mad at them. They're going to come up, they're going to go after that vampire deck that just had the huge board and is now in a killable life total range. Insight Rebellion. This is another awesome card. For each player, Insight Rebellion deals damage to that player and each creature that player controls equal to the number of creatures he controls. So this is again, this is another one of those wraths that are kind of killing a lot of tokens, but they're also you're also hitting your opponent in the face for playing all said tokens, and you're kind of just sandbagging this in your hand until it's really going to take somebody out. And even if you have quite a few tokens, maybe you've built up kind of an army, it's pretty easy to get them all killed, or it's pretty easy to take that damage. It's not like you're sitting on a boatload of random hits that you've taken all game. So it's pretty safe to play against yourself as well. Both those cards, Deadly Tempest and Insight Rebellion. Next one, this is the new one I added not too long ago, Flash Conscription. It's a 6-drop, which is weighty, but you it's an instant speed act of treason. But if you pay white on it too, it gets not just lifelink, but it gets that triggered lifelink. So you can actually double up on a lifelink creature because it's not the ability lifelink. But this is great for taking somebody's large creature and just swinging it at somebody else. You know, just being able to kill the person you need to kill, using their giant shit against them for the most part. Plus being able to gain some of the life back if you manage to, if you didn't manage to put together a solid brick wall between you and your opponents, is important. I found the life gain really worth it there. We've got Toil and Trouble. This fuse card draws 2 cards and loses 2 life, which is solid in just about any spot for you. But you can also fuse it with the other half, which is a 3-drop red, deals damage, sudden spoiling, deals damage to them equal to the number of cards in their hand, which this can do an absurd amount of damage. You're looking at, even just fusing it together, bare minimum, you're doing 4 damage to them and making them draw 2 cards. And if they're the kind of asshole who's sitting on a giant just brick of cards in their hand from like something like a Venzer's Journal or a Reliquary Tower, you can take a huge chunk off their life, especially if they just decided to like Sphinx's Rev and stuff like that. Yeah, you can do I've seen a lot of people draw way too many fucking cards and not do it incrementally, but do it in giant bursts. And this is how you punish that. I've won plenty of games even just doing 8 or 9 because they have a full grip of 7. You made them draw 2 more. Or no, that would be 11 damage. Yeah, a full grip of 7 cards. This is doing 11 damage to them for 6 mana. That's more than enough to finish off some people after a long game. We've got next here, Reflect Damage. Redirect all damage dealt by any one source, instant, sorcery, planeswalker, creature, any source, back to its controller. This is excellent for the rats like Blasphemous Act, any red rats, and they've been printing so many of them now that this is more than enough to kill a person. Just straight up kill a dude trying to rat the board. Maybe you want to keep your opponent's creatures around because that's how you're killing them. You're gonna redirect all that damage directly back to their face, and they're gonna have to read this card like 4 or 5 times. It's from like Mirage. Nobody plays this shit. We've got Route, an instant speed Damnation is just fine, or Wrath of God, sorry, is just fine in white. And you always want to have some kind of out to stuff like this. Hold on real quick. I'm just gonna grab a quick drink of water. Yeah, I'll do this. About that. So your safety. Sure, you've all seen this card before. Creatures can't attack you or planeswalker you control unless they pay X for each one of those creatures, where X is the number of enchantments you control. Super easy to keep somebody locked out with even just 3 or 4 enchantments. They're just not going to be able to attack you now. And this is what I'm talking about. Like you just look like such a bad target. It's not like they can't attack you, so they'll still send like 1 or 2 things, like one thing at you each combat, and that's just enough to generally keep people away from being pissed. It's just pillow forting for the most part. And you haven't seen a lot of enchantment set, but there's a lot of small ones. Like if I could make something enchantment, I did for the most part. Settle the Wreckage, a little bit more protection against getting attacked all out. Again, it's nice having those things. I'd probably cut either that or Route. I actually really like Settle the Wreckage a lot more. If I were to take another look at this list, I'd probably cut Route. It's a little too expensive at 7 to really protect you from anything all of a sudden. Settle the Wreckage was fucking perfect, though. Oh, God, are people here? Jesus. They said 12. Oh, well. Next, we got No Mercy. Whenever a creature successfully deals damage to you, destroy it. Perfect kind of Rattlesnake card. This is going to make it so nobody wants to attack you with anything they're not willing to lose. And that's more than enough to save you a lot of damage that you might not have otherwise taken. Close the door all the way. People are making noise back there. This is a card. This is another card that a lot of people haven't heard of. Stronghold Discipline. This is right on track of what we're talking about, punishing tokens. Each player loses 1 life for each creature he or she controls. They're sitting on a wild pack of 11 or 12. Again, they're well within range to kill. You're really going to be able to blow a lot of these really fast. I've got a couple of instant sorcery copy effects in here as well, and just being able to copy that twice against the right person, and dead on board. Next here, oh, I love this fucking card. It's a little bit less subtle than the rest, but that's what I get for running red. Disrupt Decorum, go to all creatures you don't control. So now not only have you forced them all to attack, but they have to attack other people. And it may put people in an angry position, but I love the idea that it's just so great for getting a lot of people real close to dead. Really messing up a lot of plans really quickly. And it's on theme for making sure, everyone's going to be fighting each other and not you. So I love the card. Maybe it doesn't work well in your meta because people take it personally when they have to attack. But, you go for what you need. There's plenty of cards that can fill that spot. Next, we got Wild Ricochet. Just a copy effect, but one that can also punish a large fireball, something like Banefire and stuff like that. You're going to get your copy to resolve first when you copy it. So somebody goes for that final kill, somebody goes for that exsanguinate, somebody goes for that big spell, and you're going to get your own. And if they were picking targets, you're going to pick all new shit. So you can kind of keep yourself safe and kill everyone else on something just like a Comet Storm. Even just a mid-range Comet Storm is more than enough for you to kill everyone. There's also that Jaya's Emulating Inferno, which is completely insane. And I could easily see that being reflected back at somebody else soon. Another perfect card in this kind of idea, Master Warcraft. You can only play it before attackers are declared, so you can't play it like, whenever the fuck you want. But you choose which creatures attack this turn, and you choose how they block. So you can just kill somebody with their other creatures. It's a little bit like Insurrection, but you're only picking one player. But most of the time, Insurrection's only good because you're picking one dude. So you take all their creatures, and you take all somebody else's, kill the dude who's maybe sitting behind the same kind of Pillowfort you are, and kind of just waste their turn attacking him. It's good stuff. Obviously, Woodborne Muse, it's just Ghostly Prison on a creature. Fantastic stuff. More than enough to keep you from getting hit for several turns, which is what we want here. I like this card. I think it's awesome. Selfless Choir, it's a flash 1/1 when it enters battlefield, prevent all damage that we dealt to you. It's great for the Alpha Strike that you've kind of lit. Maybe you lit your guard down, or maybe you're just even feigning it. Feigning a block or feigning an attack or something, or feigning like defenselessness so that they can get tapped out, and maybe you can hit them with Masterwork, or you can hit them with other shit. I don't know. Well, that would actually be perfect for Disruptive Quorum. So, you do something like that. So you feign defenselessness, play Selfless Choir, you're preventing all the damage dealt to you. And then on your next turn, you're playing Disruptive Quorum, and now they're wide the fuck open. Stuff like that. There's a lot of cool shit with it. But whenever damage that would be dealt to you is prevented at any time, not just now, but later in the game, you're putting that many +1/+1 counters on her, and she can be insanely big. If you want a finisher that can probably just kill somebody, this is pretty close to what you're looking for. They go all out on you, just thinking that you're fucking dead. Or after like a huge Crater Hoof, and you just play this, boom, you've got a huge creature that you attack with them your next turn. And if they don't got another one to play, because more than likely people who play Crater Hoof Behemoth don't have extra mana afterwards, or at least don't have more creatures they could have played in their hand. They've generally dumped the whole thing. Next we've got Comeuppance. This card just recently went up, and it's a lot of text, but in layman's terms, we're looking at prevent all damage that we dealt to you and planeswalkers you control this turn by sources you don't control. If damage from a creature source is prevented this way, you're going to hit that creature. And then if damage from a non-creature source is prevented, you're dealing that much to them. So obviously great for the big fireball, stuff like that. Big damage dealers maybe at the end that they're trying to hit you with. And you can also kill a couple creatures that way anyway. It's perfect kind of Rattlesnake card. You're just going to sit on it, and then you're just going to blow them the fuck out when they try and attack you. It's great stuff. We've got Muir Strike. This is just your basic run-of-the-mill Reflecting Palm-esque card. There's quite a few of these in here. These are just great because generally they're trying to get one creature in at you. All of your Assassin's tokens don't have flying, so you're going to get it. The biggest flying creature on each of your opponent's board is probably what's coming at you. And this is perfect for just, no, this hit you this turn. They swing at you with a large, 8/7. Let's say, I don't know, just something big and flying, some giant angel or some shit like that. You're just going to not block it, prevent the combat damage, and hit them with it. It's good stuff. This is probably the worst of that effect. But you need all of them you can. There aren't that many printed. As they do more, that shit gets great. Blood Reckoning, this is another in the line of cards that don't necessarily say you can't attack, just don't attack me. That's not a great idea. Whenever a creature attacks you or planeswalker you control, they lose 1 life. The first thing you're going to want to do is, what they're going to want to do is not attack you with a whole bunch of small shit. They're going to attack you with the one big things, and that's when the Reflecting Palms and stuff like that, those kind of reflection spells come real in handy, and that's what you're looking for here. Stuff like the Ghostly Prison and the Blood Reckonings and stuff like that really make it so that you're funneling down what you're getting attacked with by only the biggest and the best of their creatures, and you're able to fully take advantage of that on this deck. Marchesa's tree, same thing as Blood Reckoning, except you come the Monarch. This is another way to give yourself a Monarchy in case, I don't know, for whatever reason, you can't cast your General. And like I said, again, first thing you want to do is get rid of it. You want people fighting over that Monarchy, not keeping it yourself. Pirate's Pillage, I just love this card. Getting a couple treasures is just fantastic, especially when you keep mana open off turn in this deck a lot. And just being able to filter out a couple of lands that are stuck in your hand. That's a big problem with this deck. I have a lot of those Tormenting Voice-like effects because this deck is pretty land heavy, and a lot of them are, and you really don't have any real way of playing extra lands. And since the deck's a little bit of a slow roll, stuff like this is great in case you draw a couple of extra and you don't need them. You just drop them and pick up new cards. Sun Impact, like I was saying before, zap a dude for the cards in their hand. Great stuff. This one's instant speed, so it means right after they Sphinx's Revved or right after they drew a billion cards some other way, boom, you got them. Seer Sundial, this is a real slow roll kind of effect for drawing extra cards, but like I said, this deck is land heavy and has plenty of time in its hands to play. So something as small and as cheap as Seer Sundial is actually perfect. I think there's a Phyrexian Arena in here. Not so much no, there isn't a Phyrexian Arena. This could easily be that if you've got one lying around. It's a little risky because you really don't want to be taking extra damage if you don't need to, but I like the card. I think it could easily be replaced with either, or you could put both in, up to your discretion. But in a kind of budget, slow deck like this, Seer Sundial is fine. Crackling Doom, deal 2 damage to each opponent, and they sacrifice the biggest creature. Like I said, again, this deck is asking to get hit with only one and only the biggest creature your opponents control, due to the way it kind of funnels what can attack. And this is perfect for just killing only that creature, and everything else that it's attacking goes right at your opponents. So it's good stuff. Plus, I love Crackling Doom anyway, so this card's insane. Backlash. This is one of 2 effects. These are basically the same card here, Delirium and Backlash. Tap target untapped creature. That creature deals damage equal to its power to its controller. And only on an opponent's turn, tap target creature that player controls, it deals damage to its power. So both of these do pretty much the same thing. You're basically throwing your own opponent's creature at them. And it's just fucking excellent for taking out somebody who just made a giant thing. If you got like a Crash, or you don't even need a big dude. Like, even something like 10 damage is just enough to kill a lot of people. And I've done that with this deck. Just how long the game goes and when you're actually casting these spells is more than enough time for these, a couple of cards like these and maybe like a sudden impact, more than enough to take out your last opponent. Put the final, stab him in the back that one last time. Story Circle, this is perfect for some of the decks that maybe can slip past you. I like this for just kind of, if you've got like a couple of green decks on board, you play this, it's going to be real fucking hard for them to want to attack you for a little bit. And I like to sandbag it until it's real important. But a card like this is perfect for keeping a lot of aggro off your back, because nobody likes to attack when they're going into straight nothing. Hissing Miasma, same as Marchesa's Decree and Blood Reckoning. You've got a card that makes it so they don't want to attack you with a bunch of tokens. Sudden Spoiling. This is a little bit like the Settle the Wreckage kind of card, where you're not going to want to cast it. You're not going to want to cast it unless you're really in a tight spot. I could see this card being replaced, but I just like the idea that if a person has gone a little too far, you can kind of let the rest of your opponents kill everything. You play the Sudden Spoiling and let your opponents take care of the rest. Plus, this is perfect for taking out a couple dudes that might have gone through you with Trample, because they lose all abilities. On your Queen Marchesa tokens, they won't be able to fly or trample through you anymore, and they can't even hit your creature's back. So that's nice for taking out quite a few creatures that should have been doing a lot of damage to you. Ghostly Prison, again, Perfect for funneling out large boards of 2 creatures, and great for making sure only the biggest flying or unblockable or trampled dude is coming your way, and that's exactly what we want. Martyr's Cause. This is great for when you've got a whole bunch of tokens lying around, and then again they start attacking with the stuff that just simply a 1/1 death touch isn't going to be able to prevent. You can sacrifice a creature and fog all damage from a creature or player from any one source. This works for other people, which is great for politicking, and it works for any source. So, you can also stop red wraths, red damage spells, stuff like that. And you don't have to remind your opponents that you can do that. So you are more than welcome to just steal a game by just having this on board and just suddenly stopping something that should have happened. Oblation, our deck isn't particularly adept at dealing with maybe some like artifacts or enchantments that do shit that win. So you want a couple of like O-ring effects that are instant speeds that you can get rid of them when you need them. Having your opponent draw 2 more cards really doesn't matter to you. What matters to you is that like Myclosith lattice that you just have no way of doing anything about leaves the battlefield ASAP. Boros Fury Shield is another one of those reflection attacks. You're going to prevent all damage target attacking or blocking creature deals, and then if you pay red, you're going to zap them for it. Exactly what we're looking for. Lapse of Certainty. I just fucking love this card if I'm not playing blue. If I'm playing white and I'm not playing blue, I'm a huge fan of this card anyways. Perfect for a kind of deck like this. People are not expecting you to have counter spells, even bad ones. And the right counterspell at the right time is way more important than it being a good counterspell. Even if they get it the next turn, you've just really messed things up if they weren't expecting this. So I love this card, and I wouldn't cut it for the world. It has been more than worth its weight in gold. Painful Truce, just a burst, draw 3 cards. I think this card is completely fucking insane and should be in any deck that's black with over 3 colors. Period. I really can't see a deck where this doesn't want to get played. Maybe if you're playing like Yidris Cascade and it doesn't work well with it. Even still, this is insane value. Even if we don't necessarily need to draw extra cards, it's still worth playing it for 3 and then pitching a couple of lands at the end of turn. Shreds of Sanity. We don't like to repeat effects very often just because it's not very interesting. To do the same thing over and over with these cards. It's way more interesting to have you win with it. Kind of fair, punishing your opponents, but even still, having one effect like this, I'm fine with. Return 1 target instant and 1 target sorcery back to your hand, and then pitch a card, most likely a land, and you exile a Shreds of Sanity. If you really need to do something over again, or you really need to prevent it, I'm a huge fan of grabbing things like the Crackling Dooms and the Oblations back with this, rather than like one of the kill shot spells. But it's up to your discretion. I like it's just able to last second really put in that extra damage by maybe taking something back. So I think it's important to be in here. Plus, I fucking love this card. One of my favorite red cards printed in a long time. Chaos Warp, same thing as Oblation. You actually want them to get something nice back. So not a huge deal. You're mostly just getting rid of like enchantments and artifacts that just do shit that just isn't based on creatures. But creatures are cards in their hands for the most part. So that's the only thing we're kind of good at punishing in Mardu colors is those kind of effects. If we were green, we could easily punish people for playing a lot of artifacts and enchantments, but white isn't that good at doing it in large swaths. Wear and tear, exactly what I was talking about. Just need to get rid of some shit sometimes, and it's a perfect kind of thing to sandbag in your hand until it's the least convenient. Being instant is really important in this deck. Crawl space, again, funneling down what creatures can attack you to only the biggest and the baddest of them, and leaving it so they're stuck with a lot of tokens that you can then kill them with Stronghold Discipline. I've got a couple of other ones later, you'll see. Sunforger, I fucking love this card in this deck. I just attach it to a token and then just rip it off whenever I need one of the billion cards I just went through. It's a red or white instant card with converted mana costs 4 or less. The fact that you can grab Wild Ricochet and Master of Warcraft for this card or Settle the Wreckage is more than enough to be worth playing it, let alone Sudden Impact, Crackling Doom, Backlash, Delirium, Oblation, Chaos War. Boros Fury Shield doesn't quite work, but Lapse of Certainty, those counter spells for a red and a white open, and then you're counter spelling your shit. No fucking way they're ready for that. Captain's Maneuver, and X Deflecting Palm. Not much to say about it, just real solid. Deflecting Palm, exactly the reason this deck was built. I fucking love this card. This is insane. There is nothing printed quite like it yet in terms of how efficient it is at stopping one thing from hitting you and hitting them back. It's insane. And it's a sorcery of choice. So those big instance sorceries are great. Ride Down, love this card. This is a real good way to get somebody who just got attacked with something huge hit. You know, somebody tries to chump something, and you're going to give that creature trample, and then you're going to destroy the creature that was blocking it. So this is a great way to take somebody trying to play defensively and do a lot of damage with them with your opponent's creature. And also kill something potentially good while you're at it. Rakdos Charm, first two effects, destroying an artifact or exiling graveyards can be relevant, but it's mostly just deal 1 damage. Each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. Bang, bang, done. Again, another one of those cards where you can just kill somebody with a couple of these cast with like the copy effects and stuff, and more enough to kill people. And they can't even attack you. You've got some like Crawl Space and Ghostly Prison out. They're not attacking you with more than 1 fucking creature. So if it's 1-on-1 now, they're just sitting building a board, and that's exactly what you want. Terminate. Sometimes one thing needs to die. Sometimes it's not attacking. Sometimes you need that effect, and it's real good. It's the best you got in those colors. Well, not besides obviously the 2, the Path of Exile and the Swords of Plowshares, which I believe are also in here. Not sure. We're about to find out. Increasing Vengeance. This is the kingpin of this deck. I fucking love this card. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. We don't give a fuck about our opponents. One of these kill shot spells, and then you choose new targets for it. But if it was cast from your graveyard, which it has flashback for 5, you can do it for even more. You amass like 9 mana, play a Rakdos Charm, and do it 3 times. I don't think there's anybody with more than like 5 creatures that isn't probably dead at that point. Or you do Wild Ricochet or Toil and Trouble. You know, you've built up probably a mana about like 10 to 12 mana in a long game, and it's more than enough to do some insane shit with this. Flashing it back again and getting 4 copies, whatever you just cast, or getting 3 copies, including the one you did. Wild Guess, like I said, sometimes lands get stuck in your hand. Perfect for pitching a couple of them and digging a little deeper. These cards also kind of get you out of mana screw sometimes. If your mana base is cheap and budgety like mine, it's perfect for maybe fixing something that's gone wrong. Regisora, I fucking love this card. This is basically another one of those. This is basically one of the circle of protections, but it works for everything, and you only have to pay 2 life and a white instead. Can keep you alive for way longer than you ever should have. Ragged Veins. This is a weird one, but it's a little bit like Ride Down. You can play it as an instant speed, and it's an enchant creature. Whenever enchanted creature, or it has flash is now how they'd write it. Whenever enchanted creature is dealt damage, its controller loses that much life. So another one of those big chumps. Somebody swinging with a large creature, maybe it's not at you. Or some creatures getting locked in combat with a lot of damage getting thrown around. You throw this on them, and suddenly they're taking way more fucking damage than they planned on through blocking. And cards like this are more than enough to knock somebody down like a solid 10, a solid 10 life points, or a solid 10 hit points, and you're at fucking hit points. I've been playing too many video games. Hitting them for like 10 life, and that's quite a bit when a game's gone on long. So it's another one of those cards that's more than capable of just really taking somebody out. Karthik Reunion, same effect. A really big Tormenting Voice, which is just fine with us. Tormenting Voice, like I was saying. We've got Batwing Broom. This card is fucking awesome. If you pay white It's white and one and a hybrid, white black, but you're paying white and black. Don't fool yourself. You get a fog or a holy day if you paid white, and if it's black, each player loses 1 life for each attacking creature he or she controls. Noticing a theme? A lot of creatures attack towards somebody else, and suddenly, nowhere, you're either saving them or you're killing the person who attacked. You know, it's a great fucking card. Just really punishing the people for sitting around way as long as you are. Divine Reflection. This is another prevention spell, like Captain's Maneuver, except it can't do other things. Captain Maneuver can do other people. Yeah, so you can prevent other people sit and play it a little more politically. Divine Reflection only works for you, but it costs 1 and a white. More than enough to save yourself like 9 damage and throw it at another creature or player. You can even kill a creature with this, which is nice. Soul Snare, an enchantment, which is big, but it also exile target creature that's attacking you or a planeswalker you control by 1 white. You put this out turn 1, and no one's going to want to attack you with anything important for so long. And that's, again, it's what you don't want. You want the stuff that's manageable coming at you, and then you can kind of send it back at them. This card's excellent. Magmatic Insight, another Tormenting Voice effect that also pitches a land. Excellent card. I fucking love it, especially in the deck. I think this has a land count of like 40, which is more than enough to do that. And then we've got Soul Ring, obviously. Not a lot of mana rocks, but the Soul Ring one is obvious. I wouldn't play anything other than that, seriously. Maybe something like Mind Stone, but realistically, this deck doesn't need ramp. Its highest mana cost is 7. And you've got more than enough time to get there. I went for a high land count, pitch spell, or Tormenting Voice effects. High land count filters instead of mana rocks and draw. Mostly because it's cheaper, and second because people get attracted. People pay attention to you when you're ramping, and people pay attention to you when you're drawing a lot of cards, which is why there's only a couple of them in here. And mostly you want to save them for last. The Tormenting Voices, nobody cares. Nobody's seeing what you're drawing, and they know you're throwing away lands. There's not a single scenario where you playing Tormenting Voice and pitching a land makes you look like you're in a good spot. It almost always looks like you're in the bad spot. Your opponent doesn't need to pay attention to you. Sorry, I just got a random fucking call. And the rest of these are lands. I'm not going to sleeve these up right now. My lands that I was playing, which are real cheap here, I might as well say them. I mean, my mana base is like mostly gold lands. You're seeing like the Rupture Spire, Transguild Promenade. Like these are some real janky shit. But like I said, it works. You can easily just grab a couple of the new check lands from Standard and stuff like that. This mana base hasn't been touched in a while, but that's because it really doesn't need to. Like I said, high mana count being 40. You can play some real jank here. And since you're not really being proactive, you really don't need your shit to enter untapped all the time. Or you don't need to spend the big bucks to make sure it is, for sure. So, especially the first couple of turns in the game, nobody's doing enough that you can stop anyways. No one's going to have a 20-20 turn 3, and you need that backlash right now to stop it. It's really not necessary. But what I'm playing is, I said it in the beginning, Encroaching Wastes. Obviously, if you have Strip Mine, that's better. But again, Strip Mine's the kind of card that draws attention to you. See, the big thing about this deck is you kind of want to play worse cards than maybe normal. You want to look like you're playing a bad deck. It's very, especially with new people, it's very important that you don't look like you're playing something like Strip Mine and then the first thing they do when they see Strip Mine is they're going to look for Crucible, stuff like that. So you really don't want to draw that attention your way. So you want to play something like Encroaching Waste, which is just cheap, just blows out one land. You can even do it instant speed, so you can afford to spend a turn that you held open mana for something else and just blow it up. Rogue's Passage, this is fucking excellent. You're not going to be using this, but you'll be using it for other creatures. Plays very similar to stuff like to the effects like oh my god, I'm getting calls over and over. I'm sorry, guys. Plays very similar to the effects like like Ride Down and shit like that. Just excellent for getting an extra damage where it shouldn't have been to people that aren't you. Because you're not going to be using it for Queen Marchesa over like 7 turns, getting them in general damage. Though you can, the option is there. Mystifying Maze, it's not Maze of It, and that's more than enough to be worth playing. It'll also keep it tapped down, which means other people can punish them for attacking out with it. You can also prevent ones that aren't attacking you. Now, I'm not sure that works with Maze of It, but important. Again, this is the kind of card that doesn't draw as much aggro, and you've got more than enough mana open when it's not your turn to use effects that are a little bit more clunky. And Temple of False God. You don't need the mana ramp, but you've got a high enough mana count where it basically is just one of those Soul Ring lands without a lot of questions. Even if it's not turned on for a couple of turns, it's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. The deck can handle it. I like Springjack Pasture as well. It's a little bit like creating little treasures that can block, and then you can sacrifice them later to gain a little extra life and get any color mana. Pretty important when you've got the X spells for preventing damage, or you just need to hold open instants and sorceries off turn. You can just sack all the goats and do something big. It's good stuff. Again, lands that don't really draw attention, but have useful effects that are good for decks that want to hold open the mana. Cards like these would never work for decks that are looking to be proactive on their turn, because spending 4 mana is quite a fucking bit unless you're really winning. That's why they don't normally get played, but we're the kind of deck that can afford to take leaps like that. Leaps in mana. And that's about it. Not a lot of people showed up. I think maybe the Sundays don't work too well. This is a little early. I have a lot of plans, and I've been really busy with a lot of shit going on. I wasn't able to do the Thursday stream because of just the way my shit was scheduled up. But tomorrow is Memorial Day, and I will make positive. Now, it didn't show up on my. I wasn't able to get it to show up on my feed that this live stream was going up I wasn't able to make it clear that this is going to happen at 11, and I'm not sure why, but I will make sure that I'm doing one tomorrow, and I'll make sure I'm doing one tomorrow. I'll figure out if you guys are able to show up and see it, and I'll do a deck like Dragon tomorrow, probably around I'll say 5 or 6, a real good time where people will actually want to show up. I think this one was done a little early. I just really wanted to do it. I really wanted to do something, because I do feel bad that I wasn't able to get them to happen. But I've got some shit that I had to do at noon, and I just wanted to get one of these out. I know people wanted to see Queen Marchesa. I went over every card and explained every card in the deck. So this one is a little bit less chat oriented. One person showed up, but this is call this my official deck tap for Queen Marchesa. Now there's I'll put up a tapped out link in the description a little later today. Don't use the one that I think I used one now, and it goes to what it currently is, but I think it's way outdated. I put a couple of cards in here, and I might change a couple of things. And it'll be using the good Marty mana base. But again, I can't stress this enough. If you're going to build this deck and try this deck out, which is so much fun. I spent the beginning kind of talking about this, but this deck is so much fun. People will just have this dumb look on their face and just shake your hand in the ways you win. Because, it punishes them for what they were doing. They can't do anything but just say, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I deserve that. If they're good sports about it, obviously. But I've had a lot of really good sports, really think it was a cool deck. And I think it's a lot of fun to bring with random people. If your store has a good local meta of, decently casual but above average players, this is the perfect deck to bring there and just kind of blow some people out for fun. Nothing's quite as satisfying as backlashing somebody's crash and taking them the fuck out for 3 mana, especially when they already killed everyone else at the table. It's good stuff. It's a perfect rattlesnake / don't snake in the grass like deck, and I have a lot of fun playing it. I think other people will too. That was the main reason I built it, and I was real excited for making it for the show. And I think the episode, I'll put the episode where I'm playing it and the tapped out in the description of this video when it goes up non-live. And so you guys can check it out. I'll update the tapped out to be where I want it to be. I think there's still quite a few cards that just aren't in here anymore, or just kind of got cut because they weren't working out the way I wanted it to. But there are a couple of other directions you can take with this, as long as you're going for the general theme of. There's a couple utility cards you could easily use more expensive or powerful shit in, or make your own changes to. The core, though, should definitely still be the preventing large amounts of creatures from attacking you, because that's hard to stop, and making sure your utility and your like kind of not punishing effects should definitely focus on making sure you're not dead to certain artifacts and enchantments, because I can't stress that enough. Sometimes that shit happens. Sometimes something like Michael Sith Lattice and another piece of like just the combo equipment that you really can't punish with starts showing up. Like I'm thinking things like Crackling Ironworks is the perfect example of a card that's just like, I'm probably not going to have any way of interacting with anything this does later. So you definitely want effects that can get rid of them. And that's it. That's my deck tech for Queen Marchesa. I know somebody just showed up. I'm real sorry that this is ending soon. I wanted to get a quick live stream out of this. A deck tech where maybe not as many people were watching, and I could focus on getting the actual cards explained and get my thoughts on the deck out and really let it so people can see and build it. Like I was saying, it's a lot of fucking fun. I think if you're looking for a real cheap deck that can put some wows on, really wow people in the room and kill them in ways they haven't seen before, go for a deck like this. It's a lot of fun. And you won't feel bad if you don't like it, because it costs like I said, like $50. You don't even need cards like No Mercy as much as some other shit. So this is a real cheap deck. I'm sorry for everyone that's showing up. Like I was saying before, I think it was a mistake to do this at 11, but I really couldn't do it after noon at this point. But I will definitely be doing one, and I promise, for Memorial Day tomorrow, because I actually have it off for once and I don't have a lot going on. So I'm gonna go for a 5 or 6 o'clock stream. I'll put up a little reminder, see if that actually shows up in your guys' feed. I use my personal account to check to see if that shit shows up, and I couldn't get it for the life of me. And I couldn't make a post either. YouTube's a fucking nightmare. But I'd rather be on here than Steam. It's Twitch. Sorry, not Steam. Oh shit. Twitch for sure, because that place will ban you for everything. But yeah, thank you guys who did show up and watched. Sorry if this wasn't quite at a time where you guys can interact and actually talk to me and stuff, or chat with other people. That was a lot of fun. The other ones, I think the 11 o'clock doesn't work because I believe other time zones are it's a little too early for other time zones. So I think I'm going to try and stick with the Eastern time 5 to 6s for the most part. Maybe the occasional 11 or something, or maybe the occasional like 1 or 2. But I think that's probably my range, is definitely in the afternoon for Eastern time. But I got to get going. I got some shit I got to do. But it's been great doing this, showing you guys this, and I hope you like it. And I hope somebody makes this. Definitely comment if you plan on making this. I want to know that there are people out there playing a deck like this and just wrecking people with it. So yeah, leave a like and comment, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for Memorial Day.